If these civilizations were hostile, it'd be over. Because I know what we've been doing. I've known about these operations for over 30 years, where we have had targeted, sophisticated electromagnetic pulse weapons and other directional energy weapons that have targeted and downed these craft with loss of life, and I might add, the capture of living ETs that are kept imprisoned underground in certain locations. Spoken for some time about a group of people who have worked at black sites out west in sensitive operations, where I have visited those sites. The leader of that team has come forward. He had a little cameo on News Nation yesterday. That would be Wednesday. That was talking about his involvement with the crash retrieval operations and what have you. There will be more that will be coming out Saturday on that same show with Ross.
So tell me about the moment when you realized that you were involved in a retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time our communication process and procedure was modified. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human.
What people need to understand is that this has evolved a lot in the last 2 months. As of this past summer, that individual, Jake Barber, and his team, as well as people from other sites who are working with him, we're going to just collect a lot of the evidence of the crashes, the bodies, the retrievals, the man-made craft, hand them over, and we'd put it out publicly. Then they decided to do it through some government process with an office called DOPSR, which clears things that are going to be written and released at the Pentagon, DOPSR. You can look it up. Another one of those alphabet soup acronyms in the government, which are endless. But those are the ones who review something you're going to print or release that's of a top secret nature. And then also they decided to unmask themselves. I've talked about this in the last month or two, that this was a very big development, a very good development, that instead of it being an anonymous drop of information and intelligence and images without provenance, because this happens all the time in my situation. Someone who wants to remain anonymous, they give me information, but I can't point to where it came from. Which, of course, people then say, well, maybe Dr. Greer got that from some unreliable source, or it's not legitimate. So in this case, their bona fides are extremely high. They're going to be established in terms of their long-term involvement with these operations, decades. And the other part of it that's very exciting is that because they're naming themselves, they're adding the credibility of having been there and are currently boots on the ground at these facilities, right? It's not like they were there in the 60s or 80s or something. These are current operations from firsthand people who are operational there, who have been special forces and and embedded with corporate activities at the Lockheed Skunk Works and Northrop Grumman and what have you. That's really quite a major development. Now, the evidence that exists is way vaster than what you're going to see Saturday. It's going to come out in parts over the next couple of months. And a lot of this is strategic on their part to see, how does the public handle it? What does the media do with it? And more importantly, what pushback and dangers are there coming back to them from rogue elements of government programs, whether it be law enforcement or other activities. And we've talked about this before. Mr. Grush said this under oath at the House last year, that there have been people killed. And we know this. There have been people I've been associated with that have been killed. So this is a delicate situation, because it's one thing if you do it anonymously, it passes through a couple individuals into my hands and we disclose it, which has happened for 30 some years. Information, in the case, some documents, images, stuff like this. It's in our archive, dpiarchive.com. Go and see. There's a huge cache of stuff there that no one's looked at yet. But when you're naming yourself and you're operational and you're in a program where, let's just say, if you become too problematic, people tend to be erased or arrested or harassed or what have you. So that changed everything 2 months ago. And they are running their algorithm to their own OPSECs, operational security needs. And of course, I'm very much cooperating with that. So my intention as the founder of the Global Disclosure Project 30 years ago is to be sure that they are safe and try to get this information to the widest audience, but more importantly, also gauge from the connections that we have on my team inside the incoming administration and the current members of Congress, how that's going over and what the appetite is for supporting a path out of these illegal secret programs, or is it going to push back and shut down further? So in a sense, what's coming initially is sort of testing the waters, poking the bear, and putting up trial balloons, if this makes sense to people. And that's a rational approach when you're gone from releasing things anonymously through a whole huge network that we have versus doing it where your name, rank, serial number, who you are, your whole identity is known to the public. That is a horse of a very different color, my friends. So that is why it really went through this whole metamorphosis since we first began talking about this. Now, keep in mind, I've known this gentleman, Jake Barber, and people on his team for about 20 months, 19, 20 months now, when they first reached out. And I've seen a beautiful evolution from being completely in the shadows to wanting to move and cooperate with disclosing certain information, but it would have been anonymously, to now coming out fully, which is much more powerful. But it's also riskier. So, there are these trade-offs, and that's why I'm trying to give people some context to understand that. And I think what we all need to do, who are concerned with the truth and a future that is peaceful and a future that involves wonderful new technologies to reboot human civilization on a sustainable path, is to protect these folks and to be sure that we recommend to our elected leaders that they institute the protections that we've been recommending for decades. I mean, if you go into our archive, you'll see that in my correspondence with Bill Clinton, President Clinton, back in the 94-5 time range, after I briefed his CI director, every one of those executive order recommendations that were present then are present now in the briefing document for the incoming president, as well as past presidents that we've dealt with. At this time, it looks like there's a very positive development in that regard, because last night, quite late, and I know I called Michael right away, I got 4 executive order drafts from a source I cannot name that pretty much goes through that. I mean, it literally, one of them, Executive Order 1, is to establish a coordination office on UAPs, UFOs in the White House to get to the bottom of this. And I'm not going to bore you by reading the text, but I have it. The order number 2 is the interagency coordination, and having all different agencies coordinate it, and they keep using the word disclosure. Every one of these executive orders mentions the word disclosure. And then there's one that we've been asking for, and that's enhanced protections for the whistleblowers. And it goes into the need to have them protected by all means necessary. And that is something that we have been asking for 30 some years, because remember, if you want to see whistleblower testimony, go to dpiarchive.com. You're going to see, I think, 115, correct me, Raven, if I'm wrong, or so, named people who are already been interviewed, name, rank, and serial number. They're not anonymous, that are in the Disclosure Project collection that I have personally debriefed. Now, I have debriefed close to 1,000 And you can see there are a whole bunch of redacted names that didn't want to come forward publicly, but we already have 115 that are named. And these include people all the way back to the 60s who are still living before they passed away, like Sergeant Clifford Stone, who were on crash retrieval teams. So that has come out before. What's unique here is that there's going to be evidence of those operations, proof of it released also. Now, that puts everything in a different light, because everyone has said for 30 years, the testimony can only take us so far. We need the proof of the operations. We need the proof of the craft. And I've agreed with that. But it's not as if I can force these people to risk their careers and lives to bring those out of a illegally run but top secret operation. And up until now, no one's had the courage to do it. These guys have had the courage to do it, which is an extraordinary development. And it's been an evolution of our relationship and their understanding of this. And they're very supportive of the objectives of disclosure, but they're also very supportive of the idea of reversing the dynamic between humans and extraterrestrials that's now either total denial they exist, or an aggressive, covert, unsupervised, illegal downing, targeting, shooting the craft down with electromagnetic pulse weapons, etc. Now, the team coming forward have been part of those operations and know how they operate, up to and including the weapon systems used. And I have been out there and I've seen the facilities and I've been over the sites where they have downed. One site I was over, 1 or 2 ET craft or NHI craft a year are downed. And I was in Jake Barber's chopper with another Special Forces guy about 15 months ago over that site. So, and there's another site north of there, but both of them are in remote desert locations in the high desert, in the Mojave Desert. So those operations are known in great detail by the people on this man's team. How much of that will come out has a lot to do with U.S. government support for these protections, like I just mentioned. And then the fourth one, that is the fourth one. So I don't know, I missed one. I'm not very good at organizing these, but yeah. So the other, there are 4. Most of them deal with coordinating offices and researching this and disclosing information. Now, one of them mentioned something that I brought up many years ago. Not every bit of the illegal secrecy is unwarranted. The illegal part is totally unwarranted and unconstitutional, but there are certain things that have to be kept secret. And I know many people have wondered why I've said this over the last 30 years. Is because some of these technologies that allow for the man-made craft to go from point A to B at several 100,000 miles per hour, man-made. If that technological capability were released in the current world, where there are terrorist cells, where there are unstable regimes, where there are nations that sponsor terrorism, those technologies would absolutely be turned into a missile delivery system, and it would be catastrophic. So not everything, it can be acknowledged we have them, but let's say the operating system and the designs, those have to be kept secret for a while until humanity gets to some level of collective security. And that brings us to a bigger question. And one of the things that we need to put into the recommendations is that there needs to be an international effort with Russia, America, China, other nation states all over the world to agree, number one, to cease and desist from any aggressive, violent actions against ET craft or their persons. And the second would be to initiate a global peaceful outreach to them. But then there also needs to be a collective security pact where the technologies that are involved in the reverse engineering breakthroughs that have happened, we're going to get into this in a minute because this is the big thing missing out of this whole conversation. The massive breakthroughs in technology, those are all things we have paid for as taxpayers. And those would be the ultimate peace dividend of this sort of secret war that has not been declared openly between these operations being run without supervision illegally, and they're targeting the ET craft. Now, many people have wondered why I've said for years that given what we've been doing, if these civilizations were hostile, it'd be over. Because I know what we've been doing. I've known about these operations for over 30 years where we have had targeted, sophisticated electromagnetic pulse weapons and other directional energy weapons that have targeted and downed these craft with loss of life, and I might add, the capture of living ETs that are kept imprisoned underground in certain locations. So that is a fact. The teams that I've been working with who are behind the upcoming disclosures know that. There has to be a rescue effort for those unfortunate people. They're not humans, but they're people. And in many cases, of course, they have been treated very badly and tortured and interrogated. So, and we're talking about the ETs. Now, in light of that, given their technological superiority, which was obvious to anyone with a thinking brain, I mean, when we first started doing this, the whole Roswell thing was an early electromagnetic directional energy weapon that downed those. We were using vacuum tubes. We barely even had jets up flying in 1947. We had never gone into space yet. That was Sputnik in 57. These civilizations, if they were hostile, the proof that they're not is that we are still here. And we are still breathing the free air of Earth. And I have said this many times at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and at the Pentagon. So I think that is what we have to keep. People say, what's the proof of that? I said, the proof is that we're here. But given these technological capabilities, we're talking interdimensional, transdimensional, and interstellar capable. Those civilizations being thousands to hundreds of thousands and perhaps millions of years more advanced than we are technologically, if they had not had a concomitant evolution in consciousness and social and spiritual development, they would have said, see ya, right? That's what we would have done. Humans would have done that if the shoe were on the other foot. So I think we have to have a great deal of patience also with the non-human visitors and not NHI, non-human intelligence, because they have been very, very patient with us in tolerating this aggressive behavior that has resulted in the downing of their craft, the killing of their people, and then the reverse engineering of their technology, which we have then flipped around and used against them, right? That's what reverse engineering is all about. It's to find out how the technology works, but instead of putting it out to the public that would save the biosphere and eliminate poverty in a generation, it's been turned into illegally run secret weapon programs that are targeting the ETs themselves. So this is the truth that, most people aren't going to cut right through the BS, but I'm going to have to do that here because that's what's going on. Now, so I think that all the context of this is these guys coming forward is just the very beginning. And what you're going to see Saturday is the tip of a very big iceberg of evidence and materials that we know about. I'm not in charge of the dates and the way that gets released. I'm advising. We receive as things are going to go out generally, and I'm fine with that because they don't want to put us at any further risk. In the meanwhile, the citizenry, as Eisenhower called us, need to support the disclosure process, but at a very high official level in Congress, internationally, and also in the White House, because the chief executive of the United States is the president, regardless of who you voted for. I've dealt with all of them, and that is that this needs to be a nonpartisan, but not only that, more than just a U.S. response. There needs to be China, Russia. They have secret files. They have operations. Those need to begin to come forward there. The United Kingdom. Again, I've met with senior government people there. The top people legally aren't read in, but they have operations there that we've known about for years. So this process going on now in America needs to pick up disclosure globally. Everyone thinks this is only a U.S. issue. It is not. It is a global problem.